This is the Lars Larson Show.
Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. I show up in front of this microphone every day and do this show, and Ann Coulter usually writes a column, but I love the way her current column starts. On account of the president's cowardly retreat from the wall, Ann Coulter is too angry to type. In her place, we present a guest columnist outraged at the president's capitulation, and then she runs 4 years of Donald Trump quotes, which make the point. We need the wall. It's got to happen now. It's our last chance to get it done. Tremendous damage is being done to the country if we don't get the wall. And his quotes say it all. And I'm glad that you're not too angry to speak, or are you too angry to speak tonight?
Well, I guess I'm resigned. It's over now. There's no fooling around anymore. You can say I was too quick to say he wasn't going to build the wall. You can say I was right. You can like me. You can not like me. It's over now because he's signing a bill that prohibits him from building any part of the wall. As you and your listeners, I think, know, Lars, I've been the one saying since November 8th, hey, you're commander-in-chief. You have always had authority to build the wall. That is part of your job description. They've talked about national emergency and his special emergency powers, whether he uses that or not. He's the commander-in-chief, and his job is to keep America safe. But now he's signed a bill in which he has signed those powers away. The bill that he signed prohibits any part of the wall going any place on our border. It allows not the prototypes, not a wall, but some gentle pedestrian bollard fencing in one small section, the Santa Fe section, but only if the local authorities agree. They must have picked that area of the border because they're all left-wing Democrats who will not agree. It allows, it's worse than amnesty. It's a pre-approved amnesty. You may not be deported if a, quote, unaccompanied child is a member of your household. This will put human smuggling into overdrive. You could be an MS-13 member, anyone, any illegals in this country. Just get a kid in the household, just traffic that child across the border, you got amnesty. That's the bill he signed. Now try to go to the Supreme Court and say, hey, I'm commander-in-chief. It's my job to defend America. And the Supreme Court will say, that's funny, because whose signature is this on a bill that says the commander-in-chief isn't allowed to build a wall? Whose John Hancock is on this? He has just signed away his inherent powers under the Constitution. It is over. There will not be a fence. There will not be a wall. There will not be a garden trellis. And there will be mass amnesty, open borders like you've never seen before. The country's over. There's no point to what you do. There's no point to what I do. There's no point to listening to this radio show because the whole country goes the way of California. America was nice while it lasted. But they outmaneuvered us, the people who wanted to destroy this country, though we didn't really have any of us apparently negotiating. This bill just passed the United States Senate 83-16. I understand some of the Democrats voted against it, so it won't be held against them. They can't be blamed for open borders. You know who can be? The guy who put his John Hancock on the bill, Donald Trump. Full open borders like something Hillary Clinton couldn't have gotten through.
And you haven't mentioned the implications for 2020 and the presidential election.
It's over.
So that means we're going to have President Elizabeth Warren, President Pocahontas coming at us?
No, it's Kamala Harris probably.
Not Joe Biden? He's not going to swoop in at the last minute with his shotgun and his
who
weird...
cares?
At this point, it's who? So are you going to stop writing columns at this point?
Do you care what who the governor of California is? Oh, maybe we could get something good through California. Who cares? It's over. No, the only fun we can have is taking down the people who wrecked our country. I'll volunteer to work for AOC to tax the rich out of existence. I can be poor. Gin up the ethnic hatreds on the Democratic side. And I guess enjoy the cheap labor while it lasts.
You really are that discouraged. I mean, look, I realize the reality of what you've been saying because this is where we're headed. We're not going to get a wall, and the end result is going to be we'll have a fully operational federal government spending away at $4.2 trillion every year and building up the deficit, which I understand now is north of $22 trillion, and we will have no wall. and we will
open borders.
Open
and just
borders.
for fun, they're giving the Smithsonian $1 billion. Not a million, $1 billion. So, it's not like we lack the money, but let's really humiliate the president and spend the money on a museum. Let's have an art project where we take $1 billion and just burn it as our art project. Hey, will you sign this, Trump? Why, yes, he will.
Now, and by this logic, then no matter who was elected president in 2016, this is where we were headed.
No, it isn't.
Well, hold on. Who would have done it differently?
And a con man and an imbecile. Who else would have signed this? Oh, good Lord.
You think Ted Cruz would have given us a border wall?
I think Hillary Clinton wouldn't sign this.
Well, signing away her power? No, I think Hillary Clinton is very wedded to power. But my question is...
She wants to wreck the country. Pelosi wants to wreck the country. The Republican donors want to wreck the country. And they did it. A wall, a fence, prohibited. And the president signed it. Now try to say, I'm the commander-in-chief. I have the right to do something I just signed away the right to do.
So then I want to go to the why. Why did he do this? This is a guy who clearly, throughout this entire episode from the summer of 2015 to present, has wanted to be president. He's wanted the power. He's fought back hard on a lot of things, but not on this, not on his one signature issue. And the why
Well,
is...
on many of his signature issues. I noticed that one of the things everything I loved about him and that I celebrated in Trump We Trust, whatever happened to the end of the carried interest deduction. That was fantastic. For once, we're going to get a Republican who isn't going to write a blank check to Wall Street. Just get them to pay taxes the same way the rest of us do. Oh, but he hired Gary Cohn from Goldman Sachs. That was a Jared hire. And Gary Cohn and Jared, both of them lifelong Democrats, whom Trump brought into the White House, said, no, you don't want to be raising taxes on Wall Street. All the people who hate you. Nope, didn't do that. Where is that new NAFTA bill? And when did he end the wars, the pointless killing fields of Afghanistan, Syria? I mean, when all these Americans died in Syria, American troops, most Americans said, what? We're fighting in Syria? This is the guy who ran against pointless wars. He hasn't kept any of his main campaign promises. But today... I'm sure there will be a portion of the base, probably a portion of your listeners, who don't know that he has just signed away his right to ever build a wall, that today it is completely over. I don't know if he signed the bill yet, but he said he's signing the bill yet.
Yeah.
It just passed the Senate. It's over. There'll be idiots. I'm sure they'll keep him happy at his rallies.
Yeah.
But the idea that he can win re-election after this, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The country's over.
Ann, I appreciate it. That's Ann Coulter. You can read her column at anncoulter.com.
I haven't spoken to her. I don't follow her. I don't talk to her. But the press loves to bring up the name Ann Coulter. And you know what? I think she's fine. I think she's good, but I just don't speak to her.
Joining us to respond to that is
the
Ann
woman
Coulter.
that Trump doesn't know, Ann Coulter.
Good morning.
Thank God he's relieved me of any responsibility for what he's been doing.
Well, let's discuss.
That was the biggest favor anyone could do to me today.
Let's discuss why, because you've been...
The country's over, that's why.
I saw that tweet that you put out there.
Hope you're enjoying having a radio show. Actually, your radio show can keep going because you barely talk about politics. There's really no point
Exactly.
in anybody else talking about this. It's just fooling the rubes with the national emergency. Oh, and I noticed, I just woke up before... to call into your show.
Wait, you didn't see the press conference live? You didn't hear him say...
No, I just heard that for the first time.
Oh, my God.
But I checked to make sure that I was right. Didn't take a lot of... I didn't have to go to a tarot card reader to figure out, is the president going to totally F over his base? Went to sleep last night thinking, yes, I think the answer is yes. More than any other presidential mandate in the history of the nation, Trump's mandate was to build wall. Other presidents who allegedly, and to some extent did have mandates, LBJ not to get the country blown up, or FDR not to be Hoover and create Hooverville, to do something about the Depression. But it wasn't for, one specific policy, but moreover, any other president, Ronald Reagan, got the hostages home, win the Cold War, stop backing down to the Soviet Union. These are mandates. But it was also, this is someone we trust as a competent man to run the government. This is a decent person who ought to be the commander-in-chief. Okay, none of that was true with Trump. No one thought, oh yeah, look, he was governor of the biggest state in the union. He used to run the CIA. He was Reagan's vice president. He was he was FDR's. No, it was one thing, the promise he made every single day at every
on his campaign
single
trail
speech.
Yeah.
So forget the fact that he's digging his own grave. This is just look, the only national emergency is that our president is an idiot.
Well, you get no argument here.
Now, breaking on KABC.
What do you think is going to happen with this money that he thinks he's going to be able to get by declaring this an emergency? Is it going to be blocked in the courts and he's just never going to get it done and now he can blame the courts?
I think that's what he and Jared and Ivanka and the rest of the dream team are hoping, because for some reason he really doesn't want to build a wall. Incidentally, he is not incompetent and an imbecile on every single issue. And I think it's worth saying this. Perhaps I'll write it up next week. My last column. Just kidding. I'm going to spend the rest of my columns denouncing the president for the rest of my life. But in defense of Trump supporters and those of us who fell for his BS, so, don't get on your high horse, Jillian. Look, Trump has been perfectly competent at a much more complicated subject, the judiciary. Donald Trump, until Brett Kavanaugh was presented to Donald Trump, he didn't know Brett Kavanaugh walked the earth. I promise you, to this day, he has not read one word of any Supreme Court decision, and yet his judicial selections, what does he do? What we expected him to do on the central reason he is president, immigration, farm it out to people who know what they're doing. Thus, I again, deeply, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, thank the president for saying we haven't talked for a year, because he wasn't listening to me basically from November 8th until then. But, he turns it over to the Federal Society. This is why my first two columns right after Trump was elected were somewhat hysterical, warning what was coming and hoping I was wrong, when he didn't make Chris Kobach head of Homeland Security and made that daft woman who's a special friend of General Kelly's. Where's Kirstjen Nielsen on this? This is the biggest immigration. This is the worst open borders the country has ever had under the president who ran against open borders. And as for the national emergency that he declared today, specifically, number one, as my assiduous readers and fans know, since November 8th, and actually before then in Trump, we chose one of the wonderful things about Trump the campaigner as opposed to Trump turning everything over to Jared Kushner as president, is most of his main campaign promises, and of course the biggest ones having to do with immigration, are all things that are 100% within the authority of the president. No, he never needed Congress to build a wall. He could have started building day one. And I've been saying that since before the election and immediately after the election. Renegotiating trade deals, 100% his responsibility. Deciding not to continue wars, pointless wars in Afghanistan and Syria, and apparently, about a dozen other countries in the world that most Americans don't even know we're at war at. This was the guy who said, why are we killing the best Americans? Iraq was a scam. Let's pull out. Has any of that happened? When he needed your votes before the midterm elections, I just want to know if he'll be signing this national declaration. I got up and I see the headline is, I will be declaring a national emergency. Will he do that before or after? He will be signing an executive order on anchor babies. because I was promised that 8 months ago, right before the election. Oh, I guess that was 6 months ago. But yeah, he always had the authority. Obviously, he's now put himself in quite a difficult position because he will be going to the courts saying it's a national emergency, and they'll look at the bill he just signed prohibiting him from building a wall on the border, and that is what this bill does. It 100% prohibits him from building a wall or a prototype any place along the border. There's one small sector where he's allowed to build not a wall, not any of the prototypes, but some bollard fencing with the approval of local officials. So, I'm sorry, any court's going to look at that, although the president does have enormous authority under national emergency declaration. Any court's going to look at the bill he just signed today and say, whose signature is this? So you're asking us, you're telling us that it is a national emergency that you not follow the law you just signed into law.
Let me ask you this, Ann.
Well, you put it that way.
Is it outside the realm of possibilities that he didn't move on this subject the first 2 years out of anger against Jeff Sessions? Because when he
No. Have you been listening to Hannity? You gotta stop this crap. No, he's a lazy incompetent.
Yeah, well, I think we know that. Yeah.
No, no, the problem is he listened to Jared and his staffers. He has surrounded himself with people who have no experience in government. They're either absolute morons, or they're patsies, or they're actively hostile to the wall, like Jared and Ivanka, who promised their friends back in New York, my father-in-law, he's not going to build a wall. That's what they promised them back during the campaign.
So what does he do for re-election if the wall doesn't get built?
First of all, I'd like to see a politician in there. I think a lot of them are corrupt, but my God, I'll take a politician back who surrounds himself with other politicians, not family members who were shoe designers. This is outrageous what's happening. It's outrageous. Sorry.
I don't think the next election matters. I mean, we'll see. You got to have hope, I suppose, to be a human being, but I wouldn't want to be.
Do you still have it?
I wouldn't want to be in the political commentary business right now. Do a lot of people in California, a lot of Republicans, spend a lot of time writing about California policy and maneuvering how you can get something through the California legislature and really caring about who you're running for governor or for the mayor. No,
I do, but I'm masochistic.
Yeah, okay, the state's gone, so you can still, play games and, he's fighting, put up signs that say, finish the wall. No, this is the worst open borders policy we've had since the country began. And, I mean, it's also, footnote, in addition to being absolutely prohibited from doing what he's now going to claim as a national emergency that he do, despite the fact that he's signed a bill prohibiting him from doing it. There's also a section of the bill, I'm sure the two of you know about this, but a section of the bill that not only amnesties every illegal in the country, but offers a ticket to amnesty to any of the 42 million Latin Americans, among others, who, according to Gallup, would like to relocate to America. That came out, I think, about a week ago. They've polled Latin Americans and say 42% would like to come to America. So this is how you do it. Just grab a kid. They're human smuggling. I mean, the human toll of the bill that he just signed. If you're a member of MS-13 in this country, just, call up a human smuggler. All you need is an unaccompanied minor, i.e., someone willing to say, I'm under 18 years old, who's an illegal alien, in the household. They don't even have to be in the household. They potentially have to be in your household. You're a potential sponsor for an unaccompanied minor. It is prohibited. It is against the law for any funds to be used to deport you.
Given what happened today, do you think he's going to run for re-election, or do you think he's going to say, I declared the emergency, I solved the problem, I'm a success, I'm going back to Trump Tower?
I can't imagine any way to get out of this. I would like to hope that there is. I don't think there is. In which case, no, of course he can't run for re-election. I mean, he'll still fool the stupidest members of his base. They'll be out there saying, he's fighting, it's Paul Ryan's fault, which is such a good argument because we made Paul Ryan president, right? Oh, no, I'm sorry. He ran for vice president and he lost. I'm really sick of this being blamed on Republicans and Mitch McConnell. We didn't elect them commander-in-chief, president of the United States. All of this is Trump's fault. And also, what was his campaign? His campaign was running against the Republican Party.
Yes, it was. It was.
They hated him. We knew that. That's why we loved him. He wasn't going to be like the other Republicans. And then
looks where it got us. I mean, I don't know why we're all so surprised. Guy had no experience. He handles it like he's doing a business, and now they're going to sue. It's going to be he's creating more trouble than everything, and they hold command in all the office, all the branches, and he's really accomplished. What? The whole thing's a nightmare.
Well, the reason we expected it was that we thought he could be at least as competent on a very simple campaign promise and not the really complicated one, which is judicial selection. And he's been magnificent on judicial selection. But as for what he's going to do, okay, you will still have the stupid people, and there's a certain network you can tune into right now. As I told you, I woke up 5 minutes before calling in, and because it's very early out here. And all I know is he's doing the BS on the national emergency, which wouldn't have been BS for the past 2.5 years. But I can tell you that one of the networks is, as we speak, saying, no, this is a great idea. He's fighting. It's not his fault. It's McConnell's fault. So, okay, you can have your little happy talk. You can be Krista McAuliffe, 2 seconds before the spaceship blows up. But it's over. So that's just, okay, it's kind of early, but yeah, I think he's going to be so utterly humiliated that the odds are he will have to come up with a way not to run for re-election. And based on his behavior, he will wait until the worst possible moment to withdraw. It'll be like on the eve of the Republican National Convention when it's too late to pick a candidate.
Do you think some of this has to do with the fact that, and this happens to every single president, whether they have political expertise, background, governors, they were whatever, that you get into office and it's not as easy as you think. There's a lot of red tape. You have to go through a lot of levels. Yes, they're on all the branches, but still, it's not as easy as just throwing it out there, building a wall, which got him elected. It's not as easy as one thinks. And so now he's got to sort of save face and
it is easy, everything he was recommending. How about ending the carried interest deduction? You go through my book, In Trump We Trust. By the way, paperback is going to be the shortest change to a title ever. I'm just going to add an ED to trust.
Trusted. Very
we
good.
Trusted.
That's good.
No, the things he set out for himself, like ending the carried interest deduction, everything we loved about him, he totally screwed us on. And what did he do? Go right back to the GOP playbook, the playbook of the party that had been resoundingly rejected in the 2016 election. No, we hate the Republican Party. They keep making promises and not keeping them. No, he hired Gary Cohn, and Gary Cohn told him, no, you can't raise taxes. You got to keep this low tax rate on Wall Street swine. He didn't do that. He didn't build the wall. He hasn't signed the executive order on the anchor babies. He hasn't done anything about the H-1B workers, all these poor undergraduates in America, majoring in computer science, math, engineering. Nope, sorry, we outsourced your job to a cheaper Indian import. A big reason Theranos happened, incidentally, but that's a side note. That Elizabeth Holmes, who had the totally fake Silicon Valley startup. They admit in the book that they were surrounded by yes men. All the Americans kept resigning from Theranos. The H-1B workers, if they resign, they have to go home.
And we're going to have to leave it.
None of it.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. What a perfect day and a time to have you booked.
My goodness.
Right after the president's press conference. But thank you so much for joining us this morning, and have a great weekend.
You were terrific on Bill Maher, too. Terrific.
Oh, thank you. And good to talk to you, Jillian. I'll come in the studio one of these days.
Please do. We miss you. Thank you, Ann.
Ann Coulter.
What an interesting
on Twitter
case today. The guy our president just talking about her moments before.
More coming up on the drive home, on the morning drive, 790 KABC.
You'll get used to it someday.
are talking about Donald Trump's national emergency declaration today, one of 20 some odd that I counted, 28 that have been done before him. And I know many critics oppose him, and he called one out today. He saluted his good friend Sean Hannity, of course, because the new press secretary used to work for Fox News. And to me, that's a dangerous precedent when a media outlet is so influential over any president, whether it's Democrat or Republican. It's not good for the people. But that's a separate story. What's important is that some people who've been diehard, hardcore conservatives are not happy with the president right now. And he called out Ann Coulter. He said he doesn't know her, which is not true. Why he would say he doesn't know her while mentioning her name is beyond me, but he said he doesn't know her, but she's a critic because her name was brought up by one of those in the press corps to try and, get under his skin. Joining us right now is Ann Coulter. Ann, thank you for being with us on the Savage Nation.
Sure, good to talk to you.
So, Ann, why did the president go out of his way to say he doesn't know you? Don't you know him?
I think it was to relieve me of responsibility for this fiasco. I thank him for that.
But come on, you do know each other, right? You've met many times at Mar-a-Lago. Weren't you in the White House with him a few times?
Actually, it was played for me on radio, and that's the only time I heard it. But I don't think that was really his main point. I don't know Ann Coulter. I mean, he said it's been a year since I've talked to her.
Okay.
And again, to confirm that I have nothing to do with this, Sanders has now, Huckabee Sanders, has now, confirmed I have no influence in the White House, and I also have no influence on, the Hindenburg, the Titanic. There are many other things. I have no influence on the people doing it.
But why is it that you have become one of his greatest critics? What happened? What's going on here?
Well, look, the American people have never rung such a resounding bell in politics as they did for a wall and immigration control when they elected Donald Trump. I mean, much more than any presidential election you can think of, that was the central issue. It wasn't as if, the argument against Trump was reality TV, and he's coarse, and he has no experience in government. He's Charles Murray. I made fun of him in my book, In Trump We Trust, that Trump was saying some nonsense about Common Core. The people weren't voting for him because, well, he seems like a competent manager. He seems like this is the guy who's going to get. We don't know exactly what.
But in the beginning, you loved him. You wrote In Trump We Trust. You're just disappointed that he's not doing what we all want him to do, which is build that wall and keep them out, right?
Very clear in Trump We Trust that what was so wonderful about Trump during the campaign was the basket of issues he was presenting. And the more the media attacked him, Republicans attacked him, Democrats attacked him, that made him even more attractive. Because we were fed up with Washington, fed up with politics.
But Ann, we know this. You and I agree 100% because I've been on the issue for 25 years, as you know, borders, language, culture. But you become a critic because you say he's fooling us in plain English, right?
Well, he's not building the wall. And he has those signs, the RNC, like usual, their usual idiocy, expecting their voters to be morons. They hold those signs just to taunt us. Finish building the wall. Oh, come on, not Democrats.
But do you actually believe that he's going to build it? It's going to be in the courts for how long now? 3 years?
Not only, I always thought that he could, if you follow my work closely, he doesn't even need an emergency declaration. He could have started day one. He's the commander-in-chief. He has constitutional authority to protect the borders of the United States of America.
Right.
By signing this bill, let me just say, he has hurt his cause, either to use his powers as commander-in-chief or to declare an emergency, because he just signed a bill that says the commander-in-chief cannot build a wall on the border, that he can only build bollard fences, not the prototype, bollard fences at one small section of Santa Fe, provided he jumps through all.
So we've gone from a medieval wall to speed bumps is what we got now. We're going to get speed bumps.
And we have
and Nancy Pelosi will come along and say the speed bumps are inhumane because the babies may fall out of the carriages as their poor moms push them over the border. But, Ann, are you afraid that inside this bill is amnesty? Isn't that what you're really saying somewhere?
Well, the two big problems with the bill are, number one, it absolutely prohibits the commander-in-chief from building a wall on the border.
Okay, wait. Let me wait. You're saying something intriguingly different. You're saying by having to go to an emergency, he's actually undercut himself.
by signing this bill. It's like, as I've said on Twitter, it's like a criminal who signs a confession and then immediately appeals it. Well, wait a second. Whose name is this? Who signs the confession?
Oh, I can see why you're no longer invited into the Oval Office, and you're too smart for everyone in. You're too smart for everybody in there.
For this emergency declaration, which he could have made at any time in his presidency, or just use the powers, but he's going to have to go to a court now and say, it's an emergency that I not follow the law I just signed.
No, I hear you. You're a lawyer, so I think you make a very good point. It's going to take, 2 or 3 years through appeals and through the Supreme Court. Can he build on the way? Can he? He's already doing it in parts, isn't he?
That was going to be my column next week. He could have, but I think the signing of this bill puts him in a much, let me just put it this way, puts him in a much more difficult position. I mean, insane court. The courts may love America more than they hate Trump at some point and say, yes, you can do this, but he has made his arguments, I will put it gently, very, very difficult now. He just signed a bill saying he can't build a wall on the border, and now he's going to say it's an emergency, I have to build a wall on the border. But yes, of course the president, some district court judge in Hawaii can't, I mean, he can dress up like president when he goes home, but he can't assume the powers of the presidency.
Well, but the problem with the justice in Hawaii is he'll have to get the message to us by carrier pigeon if Occasional Cortex has her way. That's my pet name for is Alex Occasional Cortex. Let me shift to that because I know you probably have some comments to make about this one. What do you think about Alexandria or Alex Occasional Cortex's idea for no air travel, trains on the ocean? What do you think about the Green New Deal, Ann Coulter?
Well, I will say my views are evolving because if my country is going to be wrecked by the plutocrats who wanted the cheap labor and don't give a crap about the United States of America, there really isn't. I mean, you're in California. Does anybody care about California politics? We are looking at a future in which Republicans can never win. The Democrats, I mean, they're just going to pack the court. Who even cares about Kavanaugh? That victory means meaningless now. As soon as it's President, Kamala Harris or Cory Booker, they're just going to pack the court. They don't care about the Constitution. Your Second Amendment rights are about to be gone. I would recommend that patriots start buying guns now because in another few years they're going to ignore the Second Amendment. Okay, so, who did this to us? I think the only fun people like you and I are going to be able to have over the next to the end of our lives now is taking vengeance on the people who wrecked our country.
Well, I live in California, which is let's say it's a one-party state.
Yeah.
It's either Democrat, Socialist, Communist, Maoist.
Right.
Or let's say if you like Lenin, you could be a Leninist. Those are your choices in the political structure here.
The state that gave us Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon cannot elect a Republican now. We are looking at coming fairly soon here in the United States of America. So, toward taking vengeance on the people who wrecked my country, the one idea AOC has that I think is fantastic is a wealth tax. And I want to make sure she knows where the Koch brothers keep their money.
Wait, but hold on. Slow down now. I earned every penny I ever earned, and I pay very high taxes. If you're talking about an Amazon tax or you're talking about people who pay no taxes, I would agree with you. But the average American who pays legitimate taxes, no matter how wealthy they are not getting away with anything. We're supporting the whole country.
Yes, I know you are, and I'm sorry there are going to be some civilian casualties in this plan. But I think you and I will do much better than I want the Koch brothers, the Chamber of Commerce.
How are we going to do better? You do very well as an author. You're going to want to pay them even more? You want to pay more? You want to pay more money to the illegal alien lobby called the Democrat Party?
Of course not, but the country's over, and now all I care about is vengeance.
Oh, come on, you don't think it's over. You're not that much of a pessimist, Dan. You got more fight left in you.
How does America not go the way of California now? Give me any scenario.
Of
America not becoming California. We didn't even discuss, I mean, you adverted to it, but this is worse than amnesty, this bill. Any illegal immigrants already here can stay. It is the government has been prohibited from spending money on deporting any illegal immigrant who offers to be a, quote, sponsor of an illegal alien.
Wait, are you saying that's in this new emergency bill?
Yeah.
You've actually gotten a copy of it?
Not the emergency bill, the bill he signed this morning, the spending bill.
Oh, that little thing. The $22 trillion one.
Yep. By the way, the Smithsonian gets $1 billion. Just show this isn't about money. Let's say cash out and burn it, just to show we don't care about the money. Just don't want to all.
Well, I'm worried about the Weimar Republic, where I'm going to need a wheelbarrow to buy a bottle of wine. If this keeps up of cash.
But we have a few years of enjoying the cheap labor.
I had Steve Forbes on today. I'm interviewing him for about a flat tax, and for my podcast. It's amazing. He says the revenue would actually go up with a flat tax because those on the bottom would actually have to pay something.
I'm sorry. This is like Krista McAuliffe having a cookie before the spaceship blows up. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about flat taxes.
Come on, Ann. You're getting so depressed. You don't believe in the future. Stop it.
In other words, last week, Gallup took a poll. 42 million Latin Americans currently right now would prefer to live in America. Any of them can get in, and the government, under the bill that Trump signed this morning, is prohibited from spending any money on deporting them. They say, I am going to be a sponsor of a small child. So it will not only encourage human trafficking, bring in the kids, drag the kids in. This is an amnesty not only for the illegals already here, but for the 42 million who want to come.
Hasta la vista, hombre.
Yeah.
And do you speak Spanish yet?
I like the yet. Well, I guess I'll be learning.
Ann Coulter, always a pleasure. The show is very abbreviated now, owing to my inflammatory rhetoric. So I have to say, hasta la vista, Ann. Thank you for being with us on the Savage Nation. What a great interview. We have to have Ann Coulter on more. I was one of the first to have Laura Ingraham on radio. By the way, you go back to my early shows. I had Laura on, then I had Ann on. I had all of the great women of the conservative side on in the beginning. And it was a pleasure to have Ann Coulter on right now.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.